Matt Miguez has plenty on his mind, and he's ready to share it with the world. It's time to hear the Miguez Mindset.
Welcome into another edition of the Miguez Mindset here on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles. It was a good weekend for some, not so great for some others. We'll look at LSU, UL, and the New Orleans Saints, plus start the preview process looking ahead to their next games, except for the Saints because they're on a bye, thank God. We'll start with the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns because they played first. They fell in overtime to Southern Miss 34-31. And I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this. It was a bad loss by the Cajuns. A 2-7 team comes into Cajun Field and just kind of has their way with you. Frank Gore runs for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Billy Wiles and Terrence Crawford split the touches at quarterback. Both of them played fairly well. Both teams getting exactly 390 yards of total offense. Both teams had 2 turnovers. The difference was that Southern Miss held the ball for 7 minutes longer than the Ragin' Cajuns. Chandler Fields played really well for Louisiana, a career high 260 passing yards on Thursday night, 2 touchdowns as well. Draylon Washington had a big game coming back for the first time in a while, 12 carries, 82 yards, and a score. The big key, though, for the Cajuns was losing Landon Burton. He had a significant lower leg injury. Yesterday at the weekly press conference, Michael Desormeaux said he is highly unlikely to play on Saturday against Troy. So we'll look at that as the week goes on. But when you're UL and it's a 14-14 game at the half, you give up 3 points in the third quarter to make it 21-14, but then you score 14 points in the fourth. You had the lead late, you let it slip away, and then you go to overtime. You can only settle for a field goal due to bad procedure penalties. And then Southern Miss gets the ball, they score a touchdown and win the game. Now look, I know that there were a couple of plays right before halftime where the calls were kind of sketchy at best. There were 2 instances for sure where the Cajuns scored touchdowns that got overturned. But at the end of the day, you had the opportunity to where that didn't matter. You could have taken the referees out of the equation completely, and you just didn't. So a bad loss, I know they happen, but now the Cajuns are sitting at 5-5, 2-4 in the Sun Belt, while Southern Miss improves to 3-7 and 2-5 in the conference. Now the Cajuns will head on the road on Saturday to play a 8-2 Troy squad that is defending their Sun Belt Conference Championship in a pretty big way. They're 5-1 in the Sun Belt, well on their way to representing the West in the Conference Championship yet again. And who they face is still kind of up in the air. Coastal Carolina is the favorite right now, but App State is right there behind them, sitting at 4-2. So it'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, James Madison sitting at 10-0 on the season. They're ineligible for the Sun Belt Conference Championship game due to that dumb transition rule. So we'll see who comes in out of the East, but the West, it is definitely looking like it's going to be the Troy Trojans. Now, we'll save the best for last. We'll go to the New Orleans Saints now. Gross. It was just gross. You're down 27-3 at halftime. Derek Carr looked like he had never played football a day in his life. Michael Thomas was a non-factor for most of the game, leaves the game in the second quarter with an injury. Apparently, his knee injury is fairly significant, according to Dennis Allen. I saw multiple plays today where you look at the All-22 broadcast, and there was one instance. Rashid Shaheed is on the left side of the field. Chris Olave is on the right side of the field. Wide open down the side. And Derek Carr takes a sack. Like, you just can't do that. And now the Saints are sitting at 5-5, and here's the disgusting part. They still lead the division because Atlanta found a way to lose to Arizona. I mean, welcome back, Kyler Murray, but, like, come on. Are you kidding me? So now the Saints go into their bye week 5-5, kind of a perfect opportunity for them to sit down and figure some things out. maybe a new offensive coordinator. Look, I mean, I don't get paid to make decisions like that, but I'm just saying. Um, Look, it's one of those things where you have to figure out where the root of your problems are and address them from there. But I read a tweet earlier today that I thought was kind of concerning. They were talking about making player personnel changes because players weren't doing what they were coached to do. Now, look, obviously that's a problem, and your players should be doing what the coaches are telling them to do. But that also tells me that this coaching staff has lost the locker room, and that's a problem. So, look, if this continues to trend in this direction for the Saints, I would not be surprised if there was a coaching change this offseason. Just going to throw that out there. Is Derek Carr the answer to the Saints' problems? He hasn't shown it yet. We'll see if he becomes that. But right now, it is not looking very promising. Chris Olave got involved once Jameis Winston came in. Look, Jameis Winston played well in those two drives where he led them to two touchdowns and a pair of 2-point conversions to put them right back in the game. But at the same time, he kind of overshadowed that by throwing a horrible interception late in the game when the Saints had the opportunity to come away with, to steal a victory. Just you can't just chuck it up in the air and let somebody try to come down with it. You just can't. And so look, the Saints, again, I said it earlier, it's a great opportunity for them to just kind of regroup, take the time off to heal. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore injured as well pretty significantly. Derek Carr has a concussion. So the bye week is coming at a much needed time for the black and gold. Hopefully they can respond in a big way and hold on to the NFC South lead so that they can host a playoff game just to lose it. But we'll move on to the good part of this now. LSU host Florida Saturday night, and it was the Jayden Daniels show. LSU wins 52-35 in that game, and Jayden Daniels, I mean, what more can you say? He accounted for 606 total yards of offense, 5 touchdowns as well. He became the first player in FBS history to have at least 350 yards passing and 200 yards rushing in a game. Also, the second player in SEC history to have 200 passing yards and 200 rushing yards in the same game. The first one to do that was Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel back in 2013. Jayden Daniels goes 17 of 26 for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns, adds 234 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. He was really just doing it all for this LSU offense. He had a lot of help from Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors as well, both going over 100 yards on the day. LSU had, I want to say it was 701 total yards of offense, which set a Florida record for the most that they've ever given up to an opponent in program history. So the Florida fans are kind of falling apart here. But look, here's the thing. Even with how great Jayden Daniels was, Florida hung with LSU for the entire game. I mean, with 10:27 left in the fourth quarter, Florida scored a touchdown to make it 38-35. They were in it until the end. And then a minute later, LSU scores the 37-yard touchdown pass from Jayden Daniels to Brian Thomas that made it a 10-point game and kind of took the wind out of Florida's sails. But Florida was answering everything LSU was doing for 3 quarters. So, kudos to Florida. They played a really, really good football game. It's just hard to stop this LSU offense, especially when Jayden Daniels was doing everything that he was doing. And because of what he was doing, there's no reason to believe that he should not win the Heisman Trophy. Will he? Probably not. Should he? Absolutely. He's the best player in college football by far. He has 500 yards. He has 500 more total yards of offense than the next guy behind him, which is Michael Penix Jr. Just an absolute machine offensively. If his defense wasn't so bad, you'd probably be 9-1, probably going to the SEC championship game. And if that was the case, then Jayden Daniels would absolutely be winning the Heisman. But I think one thing that's going to bother or hurt his chances is the fact that on conference championship weekend, Bo Nix and Michael Penix are going to fight each other in the Pac-12 title game, and Jayden Daniels is going to have to be sitting on his couch because LSU's not playing for the SEC title. I think that's going to be a big factor in this due to Heisman voters having kind of a recency bias. They're going to watch that Pac-12 title game and make their vote based on who wins that game. Because Bo Nix and Michael Penix are both going to put on shows in that game. So I think Jayden Daniels is a finalist. I think he's invited to New York. I believe that he should win it. I just don't think that he will. But we will see what happens. They've got 2 games left in their season, sitting at 7-3 right now. They play Sunbelt Conference member Georgia State this Saturday. 7 o'clock kickoff. Pregame begins at 5, which you can hear on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles before they battle Texas A&M at 11 a.m. the Saturday after Thanksgiving. While I bring up Texas A&M, obviously everybody knows that Jimbo Fisher got fired over the weekend and got paid $76 million to walk out the door. Look, I love what I do. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think there's a person on earth that would turn down $76 million to be fired. I mean, that's just common sense. And the thing that's crazy on Texas A&M's part is in his buyout clause, it says that he can go get subsequent employment, and Texas A&M still owes him all the money. Are they crazy? Why didn't they have that offset? That's how it typically goes. That's why Ed Ogeron's not coaching yet, because he doesn't want to miss out on his $17.5 million from LSU. Texas A&M messed up big time, and look, I'm hearing a lot of names getting thrown around about who should replace Jimbo Fisher, and one of them is Deion Sanders, and I think that's crazy. That would be the worst fit ever. That is not a good situation for Texas A&M. That's not even a good situation for Deion. I think Deion's doing some good things at Colorado. I know they're 4-6, but he's building something there in Boulder. So look, leave him there. Let him do what he's doing in the Pac-12. And Texas A&M is going to have to find somebody else. Who knows? Maybe they can convince Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss and go to Texas A&M. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks because it's going to happen pretty quickly. Also, Mississippi State is open after they fired Zach Arnett. Should be a fun final couple weeks of the college football season. We'll keep you up to date every week right here on the Miguez Mindset Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESPN Southwest Louisiana. You can see past episodes there, great YouTube short content from press conferences, games, things like that. All kinds of fun stuff over on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and also go follow us on social media at ESPN_SWLA. We'll be back later this week previewing this week's games as the Cajuns battle with Troy and LSU battles Georgia State right here on ESPN 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles.